Hi, and welcome back to FX PhD Photogrammetry Class 5. On this class, we're gonna see how to rebuild the Empire State Building. So on the previous video, we always used some different pictures. So 150 pictures and then 14 pictures with different issues. We covered different topics and different things in reality capture. But now we do have an amazing shots who was shot in by helicopter. So you noticed the helicopter try to turn around and keep the focus on the Empire State Building. And what's very interesting is now the camera is gonna tilt up and try to see a little bit more on the city. And this means we should see as well during the rebuild meshes part of the city, but our main focus here is Empire State Building. So you see, because it's very delicate with helicopter, with the wind and the condition of the shooting, it's very hard to keep the camera just focus on the main focus point. So here our Empire State Building. So let's see what reality capture can rebuild with this kind of footage. One of the difficulties we do have is the amount of images. So you can see it's a very long footage. So for instance, if you import this in Nuke, you will see, and change to input, here we do have 1670 pictures. So it's a very long footage. So now what you're gonna do, as usual, we're gonna just try to import this in reality capture and try to rebuild the Empire State Building. So let's get started. So here I just reopen it. So the first thing we have to do in workflow, you can just click on folder and then go on 2K. So the original footage, it's a 5K, but I just made a 2K version. It's going to be a bit lighter for us, and the quality is still good enough to rebuild. So now let's go back to reality capture here. What I'm going to do first, it's clicked on island images. Because of the amount of image, and this is quite heavy, just to make sure we can realign every single picture, it might take a while. On our previous examples, we do have like a very small amount of pictures, like 150 top for the Santa Maria. But here, because it's very long footage, it can take like more than an hour just to align the picture. So because we're not gonna wait an hour here, I already have a screenshot here. So this is what I did just before. So you can see this, all the images imported, and then this is the amount of time it took just to realign the pictures. So this is 3,500 seconds. So yeah, it's quite a lot. So in our cases here, because the only thing we can do is just waiting here, I'm gonna just abort this, and I did save the scene just to make sure we have exactly the alignment of the image. So this is a file. So I'm gonna just open this file. So basically this scene is saved right after the alignment of the images are done. So here, what you can see, you have two different things. We have a nice point cloud here, right? And you can definitely recognize the image. Sorry, you can recognize Manhattan and the helicopter camera movement. The only thing we had on our cases, it's now the orientation. And by default, on our two previous example, the orientation was quite good already. But here's completely wrong. And this is very good, so we can see what we're gonna do. So just to align and make sure we do have like a proper alignment, first, if your camera is going a little bit crazy, just double click here so you can refocus your pivot points. So then when you right click on your mouse, you can pivot around this point. So here now what I'm gonna do is to click on define ground plane. So before when we click on the white bounding box, we can adjust our bounding box to rebuild the meshes. But what we want now is to reorientate the scene. So when you click here, we do have the 3D classic gizmo with the 3 colors. Just we can reorientate our scene. So it's what we're gonna do straight away. So because we have to be very precise, we cannot just do like something like this. What we have to do is make sure we have something very accurate. So let's go back here and now go back in scene tab and change my perspective here. So I don't need to see the thumbnail or the camera movement yet. This what I want to do is make sure the orientation is correct. So what I'm gonna do on this case is make sure the Empire State Building is right in the center because it's our focus point. Let's go back in construction, define, I can see my gizmo, and then I can reorientate now. So here is very thin between the orientation and the movement. So if I click here, I have the Y rotation here. And if I click just below, I can translate my object, my scene. So let's go back to scene, right, now front. So I can go the same here, just to grab the small arrow here below. And then I'm gonna just adjust slightly this. Now I'm gonna orientate a little bit this, make sure it's a straight line. And then on the back to make sure I can cover everything as I can. So now I'm quite happy with that. I'm pretty sure it's very straight. Let's go back quickly to double check everything. So let's go to double check. This looks straight. Obviously we can change this in Maya, but it's always better to rebuild something with the right condition as much as possible. So now we can see the bounding box is completely wrong. So here in reconstruction, you click again to make sure we cannot reorientate again by mistake. And just above this one, you have set reconstruction region. And if you click here, I can click automatically. So it just reorientates my scene, my bounding box based on the new orientation. So it's exactly more what I want. So what I'm gonna do now is to refocus my bounding box. So if I click here, and now I can refocus based on what I want. So obviously, you do want quite a lot of details on the Empire State Building. So depends on your needs. Of course, you need to have a little bit more, especially if you want to have some objects or plane or anything flying around and having the nice reflection in your geometry to the assets in your render. But in our cases, we just want to focus on the Empire State Building. So I'm gonna just click here and try to be as close as possible. And of course, all the details and the quality, we're gonna focus only on this Empire State Building. Let's go here again. Not too close, but just enough. Same for this. Feel free to keep a bit of space. Front. Yeah, this is perfect for now. Perspective. So now, just before I haven't checked, but I don't see any issue here with the images. And on my components, everything, it did find quite a lot of points for every single image. No issues. Maybe few of them don't have. Yeah, didn't find anything on those ones. So it was this red, which is absolutely fine because we do have quite a lot of images. So now I'm gonna do a quick reconstruction and preview. And voila, it's very quick. I do have a very basic mesh of my Empire State Building. Of course, it's extremely basic. Let's zoom out. Let's reset the view quickly. There we go. Double click here. So now my focus is around. It's perfect. So yeah, it's very rough. There we go. Yeah, But you can see what I'm gonna have now, it's correct. This, it doesn't matter too much. So what I'm gonna do here is just to press normal detail. There we go. Because we don't have quite a lot of things to rebuild, it's extremely quick to rebuild the meshes. Of course, if we have the full city, it can take like even few hours. I did the tests and it took me like 3 hours just to rebuild the full city with the normal detail, and it was extremely heavy. Again, part of the photogrammetry purpose is just to get the right scale and the right volume. Of course, we cannot get like something extremely accurate. It could be very dense with a lot of details, but it's going to be not ready for production. The idea is why I love to have a quick preview just to see what I'm going to rebuild and then make a normal detail, and just to get enough detail here. So then I can simplify and see the amount of density I need. I need not something too heavy, because if you want to rebuild a lot of building with a lot of details, it's going to be a lot of geometry. So in your render, it's going to be extremely heavy in your scene and in your render. So the idea is just to keep something good enough for the model, and then on the top of it, even potentially you can rebuild a mesh with a normal workflow. So you see, it did a very, very good job, and this is exactly what I need for my Maya scene. So let me open Maya quickly. There we go. I have quite a lot of things opened. Let's go back here. Time to open Maya. I think this is a very good stage. I don't have any big thing like this flying around, and I have enough detail, you can see, on my Empire State Building. So this is very good and was very, very quick, except obviously the first step with the align images, who took like a little bit more than an hour for me. So now, again, what I'm gonna do here, component 0, so I don't have two components, so this is great. I have 447 ties and triangles, so it's not too heavy. I'm sure I can do something slightly better. Obviously, you can readjust a little bit the bounding box just to avoid this, but it's not a big issue for me. So what I want to do now, it's maybe to simplify. So it's always good to get your mesh right before to unwrap any UVs, because the more triangle and polygon you're gonna have means you're gonna be a lot of UVs as well. So try now, because every single process, it creates a new model, so you can quickly go back on your different steps. So I'm gonna go in Simplify tool here, and instead of having 447, I'm gonna take maybe, I will say 1000. Oops, 1000 polygon. Triangle, sorry. Don't hesitate to do a different test, because again, you can see the amount of detail. So maybe it was a little bit too much, but maybe for our purpose, it doesn't matter too much, because as soon as you have the texture, and because you bake the texture and the lighting and everything in once, you don't need necessarily a lot of detail, because this looks maybe a bit rough if you compare with this and this one. Yeah, maybe a little bit rough, but I don't think this is a big issue. And let's now make some UVs. Here, I'm gonna take maybe 4. We don't need too much UDIMs. And maybe a 2K version is enough. So again, the in-warp is very, very good. You see, you do have a very nice in-warp UVs now, so you don't have to do too much stuff. And before to do anything, I want to make sure the UVs are correct. I'm gonna just export quickly an Empire State Building. I'm gonna call it mesh. This was probably my test I did just before yesterday. Mesh, there we go. don't touch anything. PNG is good. Exporting the texture, yes, but we don't have anything yet. Very quick. Go back in Maya. I always prefer checking every single step before going forward, because as soon as we have something not set up properly, or you're losing quite a lot of time. So let's put set projects. Let me reset my project quickly. My computer, C, user, myself. Let's go back in documents. There we go. Now it's set again. So if I import, I am in the right project, caches, obj, and modification. This is the one from now. It's perfect. Yeah. Obj is better. Now I select my mesh, check my UVs. This is good. I do have two different UDIMs. So this is perfect. So I'm gonna have enough textures, and I'm not gonna do anything. I'm gonna just kill it and go here, go back to reality capture and bake my texture. And because again, you are baking the texture with the lighting, shaders and everything, you just need a volume. So you can go even lower than this. You don't necessarily need to have like a very high detail. Again, it's part of to rebuild an environment quickly, or rebuild an asset to get the proportion right. It's not necessarily something you can use or animate or use as it is. Again, it's just to get something in the right scale and the right detail, because even 100k just for triangle is quite heavy. So I will just try to do something a little bit lighter than this, but just for this example, I think it's good enough. So we just need to wait a little bit the time to bake the textures, and I'm gonna just stop the video the time we finish this step. So see you in a little bit. Maybe it's gonna finish a bit quicker. Again, this is all depends of your computer, because the way you do everything, yeah, you see the CPU is not very active. This depends a lot of your machine. So let me stop the video and I will restart as soon as this is done. And it just finished. So you can see with the texture, we don't see much detail, and it's enough for us to use it as it is. Even the small nudged, the small thingy here doesn't really bother me. So now we have the right objects, and with the texture we can definitely export it. So let's see quickly how long it took. It took, yeah, few seconds. You can see like to texture the model. It took like 700 seconds. And now what I'm gonna do, it's simply just to export the mesh in Maya. So saved again. I'm gonna just override, I think. Let me go back here. I'm gonna select meshes, is textured. I'm gonna call it version 2. And UDIMs, this is very, very important to make sure we can export the textures. And that's it. So let's go back in my caches here, obj, and I should see my 2PNG. Yeah. If I double click, yes. And this is the UVs. Yeah, I do have my 2 PNG. So 1002 and 1001. It's perfect. Go back in Maya. Where's Maya? Here. Let's import the model. assign a quick shader. You can even assign a surface shader because we don't need anything else except the textures. And then I'm gonna do for the texture in caches, select PNG version 2. So I do need, sorry, wrong one. There we go. I need this one and this one. Yeah, this is correct. Just select udems. So you just replace the token here. So just understand this udems. Just quick orientation as usual. 90 degree. Oops. Minus 90. And I should see now my Empire State Building. So I should have the right shader. No, I don't have it yet. Let me select my surface shader. Is that probably that one? Yeah, with my texture. So I'm gonna select my shader, objects. Now I do have, yeah. Let's go back in Arnold, and hopefully I should see my model done. So this is a success. So you can see we have now my model with my textures and my two udems used directly in my Arnold. So now I can definitely, without any lighting, right? Because again, the texture is baked straight away in my, the lighting is baked straight away in my textures. So I can use this kind of model as it is. Again, here I can see is quite a lot of face or polygon, so feel free to reduce it a little bit. But for the use, I think it's not too bad. You can use a different program to rebuild a decent quads meshes, but in our case, it's good enough here. So in the next video, we will see a different program, see how we can potentially create something a bit lighter and more quads mesh. So I hope this class and was good for you and you learn different tools based on the very heavy file sequence, and see you in the next classes.